Welcome back, Offworlders. Welcome back to Offworld Empire, to the Empire off of the world. Welcome back to Offworld Off Topic, which is our weekly show. We've missed you all.
Yeah, it's been a while. I just want to point out I'm very jet lagged.
Yeah, Sam's going to be falling asleep mainly.
I'm tired. This show. I mean, I might even. Why don't you just do the show?
Yeah, I'll just do the show, and Sam can just sit there and not say anything.
I can go and stand behind the camera.
Okay, and I'll just sit here and just talk to myself for an hour about crap.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm fine with that. I mean, I can sleep while you do that, so therefore I win.
It's just win-win all round, isn't it?
Mostly I win.
Except the show will be like half as good.
Well, it will be weird. That would be for sure. It might be totally fine. The content might be no different. You know, the quality might be the same. It's just that you talking to yourself as sort of a weird monologue in the camera.
It doesn't really make.
It's a strange structure for a normal show.
It's just like blah 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 for like an hour.
Yeah.
No one wants that. Least of all me.
Well, you say no one. I'm okay for it over there.
We'll get you through it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll wake up.
So the main event has returned. So all of that stuff that's been happening, like sport and politics, all of that, forget about that. We're back.
With those world events.
Yeah. Some kind of, it's just time fillers basically to fill the void between off-world, off-topic shows. So here we are.
We are back.
So you have been doing some crazy, awesome stuff since we last
filmed. I did some bits.
Filmed.
It's made me tired.
Yeah. Well, the bit that made you tired was, well, actually pretty much all of it, I would imagine.
Yeah, well,
you went the flying.
Yeah, you went on holiday to Italy.
Yeah, I just
yourself
went and sat in the sun and did some scuba diving and all that. Ate a lot of pizza and ice cream.
Whenever I go to Italy, I reckon at least 50, maybe 60% of the entire calories I consume is ice cream.
Yeah, I definitely had ice cream every day, sometimes multiple times a day. Yeah, it was pretty standard post-meal thing to have is ice cream.
Do you not have it? See, I normally have it during the day, you know, like sort of afternoon, lunchtime when it's hot. And then, you know, as a dessert after dinner as well.
Yeah. Quite late, you know, when you're kind of strolling around at midnight or something. And
it's still warm.
And they're all open. Oh. And everyone's just chowing down on ice cream anyway.
It's so good.
Yeah.
What types of ice cream did you have?
Well, this is an interesting conversation. The nutty ones.
Oh, yeah.
Pistachio and hazelnut and all that kind of stuff. They're fucking good.
Yeah.
And chocolate, like dark chocolate. I mean, the dark chocolate ice creams are rich and good. And coffee and all that kind of stuff.
There's something about... I'm tired, so I'm just going to talk about Italian ice
cream.
There's something about Italian ice cream. I think gelato is made with like less fat in general than kind of normal ice cream, especially ice cream like Cornish type ice cream.
It's a different consistency.
Yeah, it's like lighter and sort of... It's got more flavour. Yeah, it's got more flavour, but it's kind of not so creamy. It's a bit lighter. Maybe it's sort of more watery in like a good way. Basically, what I'm saying is you could eat fucking loads.
Yeah,
of it,
you can. Yeah,
and you're not even full.
It's sort of more. It's sort of slightly towards sorbet in that sense.
It is, yeah.
This is amazing so far. Anyway, your trip was better.
Well, I didn't eat as much good stuff.
Fair enough.
But I did
cool stuff.
I did. Went out to the Idaho Creators of the Moon place. Did some work with NASA for a few weeks, doing some sort of analog research.
Basically preparing for Mars exploration.
Yeah, sort of, yeah.
So does that mean you're going to Mars?
No.
Okay.
No, we were just doing some... they run these kind of... NASA's for a while run like a bunch of different analog programs that prepare for space exploration like in different aspects.
Yeah. And
this one's designed to, you know, in sort of a Mars type environment, go out, do science sampling with all the delays and the structural kind of difficulties you get with a Mars mission. And simulate trying to do science with those delays with a, you know, like an astronaut team, or we call them an EV team.
Yeah.
That are out doing work in the field.
And they're constantly communicating with the science team.
Yeah, they communicate with a crew called Ivy, which are like the two other astronauts. So
intra-vehicle.
In the HAB kind of type
right,
astronauts.
Yeah.
And they're not on a delay. And then Ivy then communicates back to us, and we hear all the chatter between Evie and Ivy, but we basically get direct communications from Ivy, so the HAB people.
So you never speak directly to the astronauts who are actually in the field?
We don't communicate. And we give stuff like priorities for sampling and things to Ivy, who then like distill all the crap that's coming out. I was in the science backroom team.
Yeah.
all the crap that's coming out of the science backroom team, and then they basically like sort that out and try and give it to Evie in a way that's not confusing and whatever.
That is.
So it's cool. So we got.
It's cool.
Yeah, we got to.
Sort of feels a bit like a mission. I mean.
Yeah.
It sort of is. I mean, it's kind of a pretend mission in a sense, but they're trying to work through all the various scenarios and work out what might work and what might not work in a real mission.
The samples they were taking on the EVAs were samples that are going to be used by various lab groups for actual science. So it's kind of like a practice run, but it also produces like science papers and things.
Yeah, which is good because they need to show that it will produce actual science when they actually do it.
That it's capable of producing good enough science.
Yeah.
Obviously, there are loads of differences. You can't have like a perfect analog because on Mars you'd have like specialized tools for like cutting into the rock and things, whereas we had to use like pre-sterilized for the bio stuff, pre-sterilized like sledgehammers and things. You wouldn't probably have that. You'd probably have more specialized like bespoke type tools.
And they weren't in full spacesuits or anything like that,
no. They were in. They had like big backpacks on with antennas on, cameras on them, all this sort of stuff, instead of full suit. I mean, it would have been rough with full suits because it was really hot out
But presumably they'll have to do that eventually. You know, when they get to the point of like, okay, we're going to Mars next year, we need to sort all this shit out.
Yes,
Maybe not next year,
they definitely will. But there's no need to have those suits at this stage really, because we're so far away from a mission to Mars anyway.
Sure.
And we did it over various conditions. So you do it over 5-minute delay, a 15-minute delay, 2 different delay conditions. Comms delays. So basically from Mars to Earth delays. And we also did it in high and low bandwidth conditions. So high bandwidth is where you have like as much stuff as you could probably imagine. So you have like high band, decent video, good audio, etc., etc. And then low bandwidth, you mostly lose the video, but you get stills from the cameras and just audio, which makes it harder to sort of get, work out sort of the context in which you're in, trying to make science decisions and things. Yeah. Sometimes it's easier because the video can be a bit distracting, but we kind of realised, we thought we were going to be fine in the low bandwidth, and then we kind of went into it like, oh, we don't like this. So to upgrade to a high bandwidth network, the deep space network at the moment is not high bandwidth in the condition that we were using. So the low bandwidth condition is like assuming there is no deep space network upgrade.
Right. But there probably will be before human.
You imagine
missions.
so.
Yeah.
And things like, we had GPS trackers. They don't have GPS on Mars at the moment. You could use some triangulation like type comm stuff to help work that out. But they may end up putting like a geostationary.
Yeah.
They
will eventually. Like once
they will
there's
eventually.
shitloads of people going to Mars, then it will happen.
But the early missions
won't have that. That's a good point. Yeah.
So, but the deep space network would probably, I imagine, would get upgraded. I mean, you never know.
So that kind of stuff's quite. Having GPS trackers on your EVA people is kind of a little bit unrealistic.
It's an assumption. That's going to be changed. So that side's not really worried by. I'm not on the exploration side. So the exploration side are like people who are designing the actual structure of everything. So should they include GPS or not? I think they thought that they maybe, I don't know if they'll change the conditions for the next one or whatever, but where we don't have GPS, because it would have been much harder without GPS, or it would have been more tricky because we didn't really know where people were on the like maps we had of the areas and stuff. It would have been slightly harder, but we still would have.
And the maps that you'll have for Mars will be worse.
Well, the higher resolutions. I mean, a lot of the surface of Mars is better photographed than a lot of the surface of Earth.
That's true. Yeah, that's very true.
They just like get a load of high-rise stuff, images of the areas that they're going to go to, and you'd have some pretty good data.
And you can actually request the high-rise camera to go and take pictures ahead of the mission. And they'll cover
any area that they land with humans is going to be just like coated in everything.
Yeah, well, the Curiosity mission operations people are constantly having images come back from Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter of the rover and exactly where it is, and so they can navigate around June. So it'll probably be similar. Yeah. It just sounds like, from what you've told me, that just the amount of like every day, the amount of logistics involved in doing really anything, like sending an EVA out, just deciding where to go and how long to spend at this one place or something, could be like 4 meetings and then all this discussion.
Yeah,
and
it's
then
very
just crazy.
There's so many moving parts. It's ridiculous. And I mean, these EVAs were structured, and they were quite highly structured, but not as highly structured and absolutely like nailed down in concrete as say an ISS EVA.
Yeah,
because those EVAs are are just like every minute is like counted, and if anything slips, they have to
sure.
you know.
If you've ever watched our live stream of an ISS sort of spacewalk, EVA,
you can hear them reading out the timelines.
It's actually pretty boring, apart from the fact that they're floating about in space, and that's fucking cool. It's actually like, okay, everything like meticulously micromanaged every tiny step of it.
Yeah. Whereas the one stuff we're doing was slightly less micromanaged in the sense that we have to let the astronauts go out and find and make decisions about some of the stuff they're going to be collecting, whereas on the ISS it's like, go fix that, or go go and take a photograph of something damaged.
It's almost like move yourself along 2 meters to the end of this thing and then just like check in again.
Exactly.
I'm here.
It's a bit more prescribed.
The
stuff we were doing was sort of a similar structure to the Apollo, the way the Apollo EVAs happened. So they did it,
which I didn't actually realise that they were done like that, to be honest.
Yeah, they had like they renamed the various, like, how you consider like a station or a sampling point and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah, sure.
It's not really that interesting, but
it's just the fucking moon. It's boring as shit.
Well, the actual structure of it is not that interesting.
Okay.
We've kind of what we're doing, what the Mars stuff is going to be following something similar to that, but updated with, you know, the technology and the different challenges that Mars brings and the delays and stuff. You have to kind of time things differently and whatnot. But yeah, I mean,
it's going to be interesting to see how much of that structure is actually carried forward when people eventually go, and if it's a NASA mission, or if it's a SpaceX mission with a NASA involvement, you know, how much of the really rigid sort of structure for doing EVAs and doing science and stuff will be carried forward to it.
Yeah, I think it will. There's going to be a mixture of stuff. It depends on what types of missions. So if SpaceX goes out and sends like 100 people to Mars or whatever the hell they're talking about, and they're doing it like loads, then you're not going to have very structured EVAs in the same way, because there's going to be enough people on the ground for logistical support and all this sort of stuff. In terms of say we send a crew like Apollo style, like there's one crew of like 5 people or whatever number it ends up being, and you know, we send that out and it's like the Apollo missions. Basically, we're going to end up doing very much more structured type EVAs probably because you need to micromanage everything more efficiently. It's not effective to mass micromanage, you know, hundreds of people out on EVA. I mean, eventually it'll just be
like, oh, this is just where we live, and we're just gonna
we're just gonna pop out and
doing some stuff. Yeah. But is the micromanagement? I guess it's both to do with safety and looking after your astronauts, and also to do with just keeping the sample site pristine.
Yeah, the primary thing is safety. So that's like the you know, the top goal of anything is to get your astronauts back alive and you know, without any problems.
Of course.
Sure. And then what you're then
just making sure you're not trampling all over everything and destroying stuff that's potentially going to be really like scientifically valuable.
You've got to so you have like the way you approach areas that you want to sample. You have like a specific way you think you should approach things,
and also just, you know, picking something that's actually worth picking up.
Yeah, so that's the way it worked. Was they would go through and identify potential locations, like candidate locations. Yeah. And we would send back priorities. So they'd have like say 2 what we call stage, or 2 areas in which they'd move between. Okay, and they're kind of a little bit far apart, maybe let's just say 50 meters apart or whatever.
Sure.
And they would go to one area, do all the sample, put down like sample tags, say we think these are interesting, get some stills through to us or whatever. And then describe them over the audio. And then they'd walk to the next station and do the same, but in that time, as they're doing this second station, we'd be getting the information back on the first station. So the idea is when they finished in the second station, we would be able to send them. They would be getting our priorities over the delay eventually.
From the first station, go
saying,
back. And
these are our sampling priorities. We want you to go to these places, and we would do like a scanning thing first. So they'd go around with some instruments and scan the stuff, see what minerals are in there, and that would help us decide what sampling priorities we'd then have. And you basically just work on that basis between the two.
Yeah,
and they get delayed stuff, but you know you take that into account when you're
the whole thing's just structured around the delay, so they can do stuff while they're waiting for the messages and stuff.
Exactly.
They're just like sat there.
Yeah, you know, they're never sat there. They're always doing something.
Yeah.
You don't. That's the last thing you want is your astronauts just sat there doing fuck all. Basically, that'd be bad.
And this makes sense because when the actual astronauts who go to Mars will likely, I guess, it's probably the first wave, the first few missions. Again, we're assuming kind of a more of an Apollo style sort of. Just exploration mission rather than a SpaceX colonizing one.
Yes.
it will be motivated by science.
Yeah,
probably. So
the primary goals will be, I suppose that in a way the primary goal is an exploration goal in the sense that you get to Mars and put the flag down type thing.
Yeah.
But yes, the most of the mission is going to be collecting scientific data, collecting samples. That's the real kind of value.
Yeah, and the astronauts themselves. The astronauts themselves will likely be highly trained astronauts rather than Mars specialist geologists or something like that. Yeah. They'll obviously get a shitload of training in geology. But what I mean is that they'll need people in a back room somewhere, both in the hab and also back on Earth, to look at something, because you can't really trust. The astronauts have like a shitload of technical skill in being an astronaut, but they're not going to be able to like differentiate what's the most valuable sample out of these 5 rocks. And
even if you sent an expert there, who was an expert in exactly what they were looking at, they'd still probably want backup and information coming in from a larger group of people to bounce ideas off. And also, like you said, they've got like a million things to worry about. That's not just like picking the best sample.
Yeah. So and every sample they take is essentially the most difficult sample that's ever been taken anywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
To make sure it's the right thing.
So valuable. So you want to maximise scientific return. That's the idea of these things, is to practice maximising scientific return.
Yeah.
But also practicing safety, etc., etc.
Very cool. So all the science will be coming out of that soon.
Yeah,
I say soon, within years.
There'll
within
be
a few
papers.
Years.
Yeah. There's a whole program that's running for like 4 years. So there'll be papers about the stuff that was found in the rocks, like biology and stuff, the geology and the actual exploration.
Basically, just to prove that you can do science whilst also doing all this other stuff.
Yeah, and just to contribute, to add value to the program. Essentially, you're contributing to the scientific community as well as the exploration community.
Yeah. It's good shit.
Yeah, it was cool.
So today we're going to talk about some random stuff, basically.
Yeah, because we've been away, I've sort of been a bit out of the loop on everything. We thought what we'd do, instead of run through a big topic about one specific thing, is just go through some of the cool stuff we think we've seen that we've kind of not been able to talk about because been away, and just kind of catch up with everyone.
Yeah, exactly. There's a few sort of interesting bits of news and stuff that we just wanted to chat about a bit. Yeah. Which is basically what we're going to do today.
Yeah. Go.
So since we've been gone, SpaceX have had a launch.
Sounds like the beginning of a song.
It does, actually.
Yeah, anyway. They have launched...
SpaceX had a launch and another landing attempt. So after what we said last time, which was... Right, well, I think is what I said.
I think you said it.
Yeah, I said it. Which I probably just sort of jinxed them.
Yeah.
He's like, oh yeah, they've got that sorted. Don't need to worry about that anymore.
Yeah.
Or they're all going to succeed forever.
And then it crashed.
Then obviously this one didn't. But I mean, to be fair, these are, as they keep saying, they're experimental landings. Yeah. So you'd expect a certain percentage of them to fail, I guess.
They probably were getting a bit full. And we're just like, just fucking it's crashing.
Yeah. And it was a really fast one.
Yeah, it was one of the
hot
GTO
and
ones.
Fast, yeah.
Yes.
And it looks like from the videos and from what people have said and Elon and stuff, that it like ran out of fuel, potentially a bit high.
Out of gas.
I don't know whether that means it's burned too early.
Well, in the video, it looked like it was hovering more than they normally do.
Yeah.
It looked a bit weird.
So the whole thing is, what they do is they call it the hover slam, which we've definitely sort of mentioned before. But so unlike the Blue Origin rockets, which actually are able to, essentially, in theory, they'd be able to sort of stop.
Yeah.
On thrust and then go back up and hover and reposition.
Yeah.
The SpaceX ones are calculated so that they basically reach zero velocity at zero altitude.
Yeah.
So there's no extra fuel, so they couldn't stop, readjust, and then go down or anything like that. They have to exactly hit that zero altitude at exactly the right time.
Yes.
And obviously in this one, it seemed like they were a bit off.
Yeah, that's exactly what it looked like in the video. It looked like it actually was getting to it just was going too slowly. Whenever you've seen the other ones, they have.
It's like it thought the barge was about 10 meters high or 20 meters higher than it actually is.
That's what looked like. I mean, I don't know if that's what happened.
Yeah.
And it ended up blowing up.
Yeah. So they obviously haven't. What I said last time is obviously not true, but that was a bit of wishful thinking.
Well, we did say that. It probably wasn't true.
But their next launch is the space station resupply. So that's a much slower profile, much shallower, much slower profile. So it won't be so violent. I don't know. They might even try a return to launch site. I'm not sure. I think they possibly said that they would, but I haven't checked up on that.
No, I'm not sure.
But yeah. So anyway, keep our eyes open on that.
Yeah, Blue Origin as well. You just mentioned them.
Yeah, there was a 4th flight of that same New Shepard rocket.
I wonder how. I mean, we're not getting much information as to how much maintenance they're having to do in between each flight, and how much damage there is to the rocket each time, and kind of how long they think they can keep doing this.
Yeah, how many flights
I want those
will
deets.
actually...
Give us those deets.
Yeah, I want to know.
Stop being secretive.
Yeah.
Give us some deets.
Yeah, but it's still cool. I mean, they're still... they're the people who are going to take me into space. So keep it coming.
Yeah, SpaceX aren't doing anything that I probably could afford in my life. They say they take people to Mars for like 200 grand.
500, but...
500 grand.
Yeah, maybe one day.
But yeah, something like the Blue Origin thing is going to be a much more likely prospect for people,
so I think
non-astronauts.
They did some kind of test of the parachutes. I think they tried landing the capsule, the passenger capsule, with fewer parachutes or something, just as a test of the redundancy and stuff, and it was all fine. But the actual rocket booster landed absolutely perfectly. Again, so
that's cool.
They've got that down.
It'd be very interesting to see how many times they can use that.
Yeah.
Because that's going to determine how the safety.
It doesn't go through anywhere near the amount of stress and stuff that the orbital launches will.
No, of course. But the safety, the costs are going to be determined quite largely on how many times they can reuse one booster safely.
Yeah, absolutely.
And how much damage it gets per time, etc., etc.
Yeah,
if you can use that thing like 100 and something times or even more, then the costs are going to be dramatically reduced to compared to 20 times.
Yeah. And especially if it needs very minimal refurbishment as well.
How much stress?
They could fly it sort of multiple times in a day, even. Imagine.
Yeah.
Just literally land it, refuel it, maybe hose it down, and send it back up.
I wonder how many... Because to test that, how many times it can do that? I mean, they're not going to... So what happens if they just get to like 20, 25 and they're just like, it's just nothing's wrong with it? When do they put,
Yeah, when do they think, okay, let's cool it?
How do they stress test it to the point where they know its limits and what's safe for people? Yeah. I guess there is ways of knowing that. There's ways of knowing that for aeroplanes and stuff. Yeah, well, you can stress test various parts of it in experimentally in under sort of controlled conditions rather than just by flying it. Like with aircraft, they'll test the flex on the wings and stuff in the engines and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, all that kind of stuff, and heat tolerances and all that. So they can do that individually with components, but the actual whole vehicle flying, they just have to fly it until it. Yeah, I don't know.
Fly it till failure.
Fly it 100 times and they're like, oh yeah, well it's fine. Like what then? Yeah.
Fly it another 100, it's still fine.
Guys, this is weird.
How long is that going to go on for? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. And when are they going to start taking passengers? I don't know. They have said that their eventual plans are to build a orbital launcher. I think speculation is that this New Shepard thing, that sort of little dildo of a rocket,
showed dildo.
It's going to be potentially a second stage. I think that's just rumours, but so that will be the upper stage, and so they'll try and land both upper and first stages, which is pretty crazy.
That's for orbital flights.
Flights,
but not for the tourist type flights. They'll just use the second stage. They'll probably do orbital flights for tourists at some point.
Eventually, yeah, but just for their initial like up and down, 4 minutes of weightlessness, get to see space. I mean, that's going to be fucking cool.
Damn right.
Yeah, so looking forward to that.
They're chugging away on that then. That's something else that has gone on since we've been away. What other stuff?
Tesla have crashed.
Tesla did crash.
I mean, as in the cars.
Tesla crashed.
So there was
a fatal accident.
There was a fatal accident, yeah, with autopilot engaged.
Yeah, so a while ago there was. I remember, possibly it was Elon Musk saying that they hadn't had anyone die in a Tesla before, and I don't know when that was changed. Whether it was this most recent fatality or whether there had been fatalities before that. I'm sure he was saying that at the moment, at that point in time, it might have been in like 2013 or something.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I'm not sure of the stats at all, actually, whether people have died or not before this. But certainly this does seem to be... Autopilot was engaged and it was driving under autopilot. The guy, the driver, I almost said passenger then. guess he sort of was a passenger.
Well, that's what I was thinking. But technically, he should be the driver because
Yes.
the autopilot is an driver
Yeah, they're very
assist.
clear that this is a driver assist, and that you can't take your eyes off the road. You have to basically be ready to take control at any time. And it sounds like, I think it's a bit tragic because this guy, well, it's obviously tragic anyway, but this guy was very, he's like a big Tesla like enthusiast.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
was posting loads of videos about trying out the autopilot. And
They
all this
wrote
stuff.
a little memoir type message thing, didn't they, Tesla?
Yeah, he's a big Tesla fan, so yeah, sad times, but it's a pretty crazy accident as well. I think it sort of went underneath a truck and
there was a
sliced
truck
off the
pulling
top
across,
of the
wasn't there?
car.
So basically, what seemed to happen wasn't there was the camera didn't detect that the truck was a different color from the sky or something like that, and didn't notice it.
It's really bright sunlight, either directly into the cameras or reflecting off of the truck.
Right.
And it didn't see it as an obstacle. Basically, it just kept going.
What about the radar? The forward-facing radar that didn't see it, obviously.
Yeah, I guess not.
Anyway, all the systems failed to recognise what was there.
Yeah.
But the guy didn't brake either, did he?
No, which is interesting.
Which is weird.
Yeah, and I think this guy has tried sort of pushing the autopilot a bit to see what it can do, see its limits. I think in other videos he's, for example, decided to not use the brakes even when he potentially should have, just to see what the autopilot would do. So whether or not he was doing that in this situation, or he wasn't quite paying attention, or what happened. But ultimately, he died while the autopilot was in control.
Yes.
So of course, like, critics are immediately like,
Yes.
autonomous cars are going to kill everyone.
Yeah.
But
I didn't see that many articles like that.
No, they weren't.
I didn't really look at them for them, though.
No, they were. I mean, they probably were the odd one, but I didn't see anything. Most of it was, just a realistic. Obviously, this stuff is just going to happen. There's more and more people drive, and these aren't completely self-driving cars for a start.
Yeah,
They're driver assists. They're autopilots for certain situations, certain types of driving.
It's like enabling, cruise control, and then like not braking when you see the car in front of you. It's like that's what it's a driver assist thing. It's not yet designed to entirely handle the driving for the driver. The driver's supposed to be sat there grabbing on the wheel, watching well, obviously they're not, but
and the stats of it just work out. Seeing as this is the first fatality with so many million miles driven through the autopilot, is way obviously you can't really do statistics with one data point, but way less than normal driving fatality rates.
Was it way less,
miles.
or was it just better?
It's way less.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah.
I can't remember. But I mean these sorts of things will make a big difference to safety overall. Yeah. But people will, the public will eventually, and they will come to realise there's better, statistically it's safer, but whenever there's always this is why we talk about autonomous cars have to be much safer than for people to actually rely on them.
Yeah, they'll be held to higher standards.
They'll be held to higher standards, exactly, because people like to be in control. If the crash is their fault, then they can, it's their fault. They feel like they're in control of it. People are much more nervous about something they're not in control of.
Which is probably one of the main reasons that a lot of people don't like flying. Even though statistically, when you're in a plane, you're like safer than when you're not in a plane.
I think that's probably true, but it's also, there is something about flying that's extra scary.
Yeah, sure.
You're like really high up.
But if you were flying a plane,
would you be less scared?
I think potentially you would.
I wouldn't. I don't know.
Well, maybe if you knew how to fly a plane and you were flying a plane, not just like if you were just suddenly flying a plane right now, I'd be bricking it as well.
Yeah, sure. No, I see what you're saying. Maybe you might. Yeah, you'd probably feel happier with the risk if you were in control of the plane.
Yeah, if you were comfortable controlling it, you knew how to fly a plane, and you just sat there, just cruising along, and maybe there's a bit of turbulence, like, oh, that's fine.
Yeah.
Whereas when you're not in control, turbulence can freak you out a bit.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's that aspect, and planes are just inherently slightly more scary because people are up in the air, and the idea of a plane crash seems more terrifying than a car crash.
Yeah.
But generally, I think to most people.
Yeah, well, it tends to be more more.
You're more or less likely to survive a plane crash, probably.
Yeah.
And it's just scary. Like falling out of the sky.
Yeah, it's terrifying.
It's scary.
It's got to be one of the worst. Well, I don't know.
It's just got to be really, really scary.
Pretty horrible. Yeah, pretty horrible. But anyway, so as you were saying, they will have to be autonomous cars will be held to a higher standard, and any instance of a fatality that can be pinned purely on the decisions made by an autonomous vehicle will be scrutinized heavily, and so they'll have to be way safer. They'll not just have to be a little bit safer; they have to be way safer.
And the public will eventually probably accept that overall it's a thing that's better to be around, it's safer to be around it. But there will be some hesitancy with these types of accidents for people to get in autonomous cars. And
I'm actually not sure on the numbers. I said it was way less in terms of deaths per mile, but it might not be way less. It's certainly
it was
less.
Better.
Certainly better rate, but at the same time, it's only one death.
Yes.
So we don't really know we'll have to wait until
it's not good statistics.
More people die. I mean, that sounds pretty dark, but
no, it doesn't necessarily people dying. Just more miles are driven.
Yeah, more miles are driven. Yeah.
And then if there's no accidents in that time, it's looking pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty decent. So earlier this week, Elon Musk tweeted to say that they're working on Tesla's secret master plan number 2.
Yes.
Which is going to be published this week, hopefully.
Yeah, which means that
by the time we release this, it may well have been officially published.
Yeah, so we're just going to guess.
So we're just going to speculate a bit about it because it sounds cool. But so the first Tesla secret master plan was way back in 2006, and that was the whole, make a really flashy sports car, or really.
So this is what I was thinking,
and then build a low volume, high expense luxury car, and then move into the more affordable stuff. That was their first sort of secret master plan. Yeah, exactly. Which is what they've kind of worked through now. And obviously the Model 3, the cheap, the affordable one, isn't actually yet being produced.
No, but it's been pre-ordered. And
that plan has sort of happened, basically.
Sure, it's been put in motion. They're kind of at that point. They're nearly at the end of it. They don't have any after the Model 3. There's no publicly announced plans. Basically.
No. So, working on a second secret master plan. I love this way he refers to it as that, as if it's going to be like some world domination sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, there was news, wasn't there, about Solar City?
Yeah.
Merging.
What so was that might have something to do with it.
I didn't actually hear what the story was. Are they actually officially merging, or is it
Tesla have made a bid? Tesla basically contacted Solar City, which is another one of Elon's companies,
or at least on the board of it or something.
Yeah, I think he was involved in setting it up. He's one of the founders. I think with his brother potentially.
Yeah, was it his brother? I think it's his cousin. I think it might be his cousin. Anyway, some family members.
But yeah, Tesla have made an offer to buy them. Basically, to acquire them for shares, basically.
Okay.
Which
was
is
Solar City struggling? No, it wasn't struggling.
No,
was it?
Not particularly.
Don't know.
Tesla shares are all over the place.
I know.
But that's just the way it goes.
It's just a battleground stock. Let's have a quick look at Solar City. They might have jumped if.
Yeah, I don't think Solar City were particularly struggling, but obviously, the board at Tesla think that it's a really good idea.
It's generally. It's gone up and down. Basically, it's at a low kind of end at the moment. Anyway,
but I think the idea would be that you have this, because obviously Tesla building the Gigafactory, going to produce a shitload of batteries at the Gigafactory. The whole thing is going to be solar powered because it's going to be packed full of solar panels on the top. Yeah. Though I think and Tesla designed all these Powerwall. Is that what it's called? The Powerwall, the batteries that you have at home that. When you have solar panels, you can store power, and you know, during the night you can charge stuff, whatever. It kind of makes sense to fold in Solar City's installing solar panels sort of business
and network
into that.
And
yeah. And then you have the whole system all the way from building the batteries, storing energy, harnessing sunlight, driving cars. The whole thing is just based on this architecture.
Sure. I mean, they've always been, I suppose, hand-in-hand technologies, and some synergy has existed between them. It kind of makes sense for Tesla to buy it for that reason.
I don't think that's what the secret master plan. I mean, it might be something related to that, or how that might have something to do with it.
Yeah.
But we have no idea basically until they make the announcement. But I think it's going to be something based on the way that Elon Musk and his company sort of will operate. I reckon it's going to be something that sounds quite radical when they announce it.
So what are you thinking?
Well, I reckon, and I've actually seen a few articles saying the same thing, so it's not like I can't claim this is my idea or anything.
Sure.
But basically that they'll, and we've talked about this before, but they'll basically be announcing that they want to turn into like a public transport company, more than just a car company. more than just a car manufacturer.
Yeah.
Sorry. So moving into the kind of Uber style, ordering cars with your phone, but the cars now are going to be autonomous Teslas.
Yeah.
So I think we were talking about this when we were talking about the future of transport or something, maybe. It was in one of the episodes where we were talking about where in the future you'll have no one will really own cars, and in the city at least, and you'll just order an autonomous vehicle that will turn up.
It was the autonomy episode, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. Yeah. And we were saying like, oh, who's going to own them and stuff, and who's going to look after and maintain all these vehicles? Well, maybe companies like Tesla. Maybe they're one of the first. They're going to produce and maintain and operate a fleet of autonomous vehicles that you can order on your phone and turns up at your door.
So that's them turning into a sort of, they're going down, and that's not all public transport, of course. So what I was thinking was, okay, what Elon Musk was saying was that he thought that all transport was basically going to go electric, except for rockets.
Yeah.
And so the door for Tesla is kind of open to, I mean, they're probably not going to do things like trains because there's already electric trains and stuff at the moment.
Okay. But
they could go anywhere with Tesla for any type of public transport, electrifying public transport or any type of transport.
Planes?
Do you think Tesla go into planes? I think that's a separate company probably. I was thinking that, they could go heavy goods vehicles. They could go, any type of transport really. Anything that like cleans the streets, like any type of infrastructure they could potentially... Milk floats. They could get in on all those different levels. So
everyone's going to have milk, finally.
If you imagine their pyramid was like small volume, high cost.
Yeah.
And then like moderate, and then like high volume, low cost type thing. So it's like a sort of pyramid shape.
Yeah.
And then you end up getting like segments. They'll probably do it like parallelized, like developing two things at once.
Yeah.
So the next level down after the Model E will probably be...
Model 3.
The Model 3, because that's what it was called, will be, two cars. They might end up doing like another version of the Roadster maybe or something like that. Yeah. And a kind of, I don't know, like a heavy goods vehicle or anything like that. I mean, they can start like doing more than one product development at once now.
Yeah, sure.
The idea would be under that, what is supported by that high volume, low cost product where you're getting a lot more revenue is the development of more products at once. And so you kind of end up with this again, a pyramid shape where it kind of gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until they're developing a lot of stuff. But yeah, I mean, they could go...
so that's kind of different to what I was suggesting. It's like I was just trying to work out if they could be sort of steps in the same... in the same way that the original master plan had these 3 steps. If there could be also 3 steps.
Well, I think,
or multiple steps.
I think they may go down the route of doing multiple products like that. But I think and whoever's been talking about this is absolutely right. That's clearly what. I mean,
that's going to be a big business.
That's obvious. I mean, it's going to be huge. Autonomous vehicles are going to be a massive, massive commodity in the future.
Yeah, and Tesla are spearheading that in a lot of ways.
Exactly, so. They're getting so much data from autopilot.
Yeah,
and they're going to be rolling these things out. There's autonomous car tests happening all over the place.
Yeah.
Uber's hugely successful. You can easily replace those.
It's not hard to connect the dots between those two things.
It's not at all. So that's absolutely going to be their plan. So it's like I don't know. I'm just trying to think what that like plan might look like. Whether they go for a kind of, it's more of now instead of products, it's like a sort of structural plan of changing the structure of how things operate and
development.
Because it's more of a autonomy and this style of where they're producing the cars and stuff. That's. The technology doesn't exist for autonomous cars quite yet.
Sure.
But they're not building new cars particularly. They're just putting stuff on a few of them.
Yeah.
You've got to have a few more instruments and bits and bobs to help them read the road better and stuff. But they're not developing a whole new product. Then Teslas now, with some extra bits on, could be autonomous.
It's
just software development.
Yeah.
So it's more like restructure. It's like a whole new infrastructure type.
Yeah.
System. It's a different business almost.
It's almost a different business. Yeah. Instead of just manufacturing cars, you've now got to think about maintaining a public transport system network over potentially the whole US, I guess, or
they'll do it localized in cities and stuff first. Probably San Francisco or something first.
Yeah.
And then,
and it's worth going on a trip to San Francisco if that does happen. It gets implemented. I don't know when. I mean, it took 10 years roughly for them to get their first master plan done. So say like 10 to 15 years from now, if you can go to San Francisco, maybe not even that long, go to San Francisco and order an autonomous Tesla. It's worth a trip to San Francisco purely for that.
To order an autonomous Tesla.
I'd do that.
Get on a Hyperloop to get there.
Yeah, oh man.
Yeah. I mean, Tesla, was it Tesla? No, SpaceX are involved in the Hyperloop stuff. I don't see the Hyperloop being any part of
Tesla,
of Tesla's,
No.
of this plan or
No,
anything
no,
like
no.
that. I don't see it being. There's a possibility that it could be related to multiple product developments. I just wonder if, because they said about the different, those 3 different levels.
Yeah.
You know, sports car, luxury, and then a car for everyone type thing. They said about that ages, like when they first announced that master
2006
plan.
or something.
So,
yeah.
Although we didn't see the products for a while, we saw them. You know, a lot. We sort of knew what they were doing a long time ago. I wonder if it will be such a clear-cut thing this time, where they say we're going to develop 2 products and we want one of them to be this and one of them to be that. I mean, that would be awesome if they said.
Yeah, it would, because
you know, one of them's
last time they said that and they just did it. Like they worked that plan, and so the whole time you were kind of looking forward to this happening, and then it did, like just as they sort of said they would. So if they do give us such a prescribed plan again this time, that'll be pretty exciting.
I think things like autonomy feed into things like heavy goods vehicles and street cleaning things, construction vehicles, everything.
Yeah,
I can't help but think that if they aren't just going to become a glorified taxi service. Like there's much more Tesla can do.
Although the glorified taxi service is potentially the biggest deal.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Sorry, I sound like I'm downplaying that. No, absolutely it is, and that's the thing that they've got to do. Like that's an absolute. They're definitely going to end up doing something like that. Because that really will revolutionise the way people get around. But I don't see that being the only plan. It's going to be in this master plan. I think there's going to be more than that.
Sure, it's like once you crack autonomy properly, then there's all these things below. I mean, and goods vehicles, and you transport across the country, taking goods, shipping, you know, construction, cleaning, all the stuff that we've just been chatting about.
Yeah, I mean, they probably won't go into. I think they'll stick to road vehicles. Probably, I don't think they're going to end up doing, like I said, trains or ships or any stuff like that. I think they're going to all be road vehicles. I'd imagine. Yeah.
Mars rovers.
Maybe. Then they can buy shares in SpaceX or something.
Yeah. So the SpaceX Mars colony will be like, everyone will be flown there by SpaceX. Everyone will drive around in Tesla rovers and get around from habitat to habitat on hyperloops.
I tell you what, that is not. That I would not be surprised.
That's what Elon sees in his head when he goes to bed at night. Yeah, when he sleeps.
If the things they drive around on Mars, if SpaceX get there and set up colonies and all this sort of stuff, that they are like Tesla branded kind of little vehicles, you know. Yeah,
with a little T on them.
Because this is slightly off topic, but well, that's what this show's called, I guess.
All about.
When we go to Mars, okay, and Elon Musk has talked about this. There's a whole kind of pit of different of careers, of opportunity to set up, you know, establish businesses, establish markets, etc. on Mars. It's like a deep blue sea kind of situation where you've just got a limitless number of, you know, people need to be providing all the services you expect on Earth. People need to set those businesses up
from scratch.
And so companies that get there early are going to have the best shot at sort of almost like monopoly. I wouldn't be allowed to monopolize. Well, I don't know what the rules are on Mars. There'd have to be some stuff done there, but to establish themselves as like brands on Mars where there's not much other competition. Yeah. And so
it's not like you could order a pizza from Earth. No, it's obviously not going to be possible. So you're right. There's all these things are going to be,
and people are going to get to know whatever pizza brand that is. You know, that's
be a Martian pizza brand.
Yeah, called something.
Yeah. So you're right. All these things. It's going to be open sort of. Open
floodgates,
waters.
It's going to be like the Wild West, basically, like the US in the early days. Just set, you know, just a big open environment in which, you know, people are going to go and set up all their different businesses, all their different lives, and rebuild everything. I wonder how many brands would carry over. You know, is it going to be? Yeah,
would you get Starbucks in the Martian colonies and, you know, McDonald's and stuff?
Or would the people that go there first to set them up have their own brands set up there and?
And how long will it be until that kind of... Yeah. Because at first it's just going to be... And we've gone way off topic here. At first it's just going to be like a kind of Antarctic research base kind of situation, probably. Fairly self-sustaining, but reliant on shipments coming in. And you're not going to be worrying about sort of starting up their own fast food joints and stuff immediately, like initially. But once you have thousands and millions of people living there, then a culture will arise, you know... businesses, brands, and
music,
construction,
everything.
I mean,
a lot of stuff. You'll be able to get a lot of things like entertainment and things beamed from Earth.
Yeah, sure.
A lot of electronic stuff would still be available. From Earth easily. but some of the stuff you can't send so easily.
Well, things like music and things will develop probably.
Oh, their own
little
cultures will
niches
develop.
and cultures.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they will.
But you'd be shared, so you'd be checking out Martian music.
Yeah.
Or something. Wow, that's deviated from Tesla heavily.
It has.
So anyway, predictions for the Tesla announcement are going to be that.
So we're saying there's like the kind of diversification into fully autonomous fleets of vehicles that are providing like a sort of structured transport network within cities.
I still think they'll want to sell cars, obviously, to people who want to buy cars.
Well, I mean, yes, they will, but
But they'll
they may go in the direction of not doing that.
Will be to phase that out, or to kind of not directly phase it out, but to try and push society in the way of phasing that out. If you see what I mean?
Yeah,
by supplying this other service, which just makes more sense and is better.
Yes. And then diversifying the types of vehicles they're building. We're thinking that's another one of the predictions we've kind of thought, I guess.
Yeah.
So
trying to imagine what a Tesla heavy goods vehicle would look like.
Probably be pimping.
Yeah, it'd probably be very cool looking.
Or just the entire road network, or almost everything they could have a hand in switching from gasoline to battery-powered cars, battery-powered vehicles. So, apart from, I think the limit though is I think they're going to limit themselves to road-type vehicles. I don't think we're going to see anything more about anything yet. Or I don't think maybe they won't ever go there. Is things like trains or whatever. I think that they're separate businesses essentially. Like you're saying, the aircraft. I think that's a separate. That requires a separate business. Yeah. They may share technologies and things with them, but I don't think that's what we're going to hear.
No.
So
I
agree. Think those two aspects. Some plan based around those.
Yeah. I mean, we could be totally wrong. It could be something completely different.
And if we get it dead right, I mean, we did actually film this before it happened.
Yeah, we need like how do you prove that?
Have you got a date? Oh, it doesn't matter.
It really doesn't matter.
No.
It is the 15th
And to be honest,
of
we've
July.
just picked out some relatively like obvious things.
Yeah,
it's not they're going to think we're like prophets.
They're going to build a space elevator.
Well, that would be coming out of left field. If you predicted that, then you are a prophet. Yeah.
It's the 15th of July, by the way. Take my word for it.
Right.
Is that right?
I don't know.
Yes, it is.
The dates will screw up.
Friday the 15th of July. Yeah. Okay, so that's our prediction for Tesla.
The master plan.
So sort of along the same lines.
Oh,
there was a story about an AI fighter pilot.
Oh, fucking hell, that's cool.
Which is cool.
Yes.
So it beating this American Air Force colonel who
was a bit of a badass
pilot, and in every single instance of like a dogfight, I guess is what it was, this AI autonomous jet, sort of simulation, obviously. I mean, they didn't really do this, but in simulation, he's completely owned by it every time.
It was inevitable that was going to happen.
It was just better than the human pilot every time. A bit like the chess playing AIs or the Go playing AI. Just being okay. Now we've got this domain of human activity. We have a machine that is better at humans than it every time.
Yeah, just slowly eroding away our capabilities. Is there a film?
Makes sense.
Have you seen? I haven't actually seen it. I think there's a film, a shit film called Stealth.
No, not seen it.
Right, so I think that's about like an AI plane that goes rogue or some bollocks. I can't remember. And
that sounds shit.
And I think there's human pilots, and they're kind of it's about human pilots being better than the robot or something like that.
Oh right.
Eventually, I don't know. I don't.
They have to like work together.
Probably. But yeah, this is what's going to happen. I mean, we're going to end up with autonomous, not just drones like type things where they just kind of hover and shoot the odd missile off, but planes capable of dogfighting better than human pilots. Yeah. And that would be the next generation of aircraft. They might not have pilots.
Yeah. It makes no sense if your enemy is capable of producing planes that can just 100% of the time take your pilots out of the sky. Then obviously that you're going to do the same. I mean it just escalates in that way, doesn't it?
And things, you don't put a pilot in, you haven't got to worry about G-forces, you haven't got to worry about getting fatigue, all this kind of stuff. You just got to it
can pull maneuvers that
a monster machine in there that just has no, it's
a good point.
G-force.
Don't worry about G-force.
It's just a beast. It can fly more extreme turns. It can fly faster. It can fly longer, etc., etc.
Yeah.
And it's more skillful.
Yeah.
Now.
Yeah, I mean it's
just the obvious replacement. It's like you won't have fighter pilots soon.
You won't have fighter pilots, no. So you just see this trend of just people being more and more distant from combat, which has obviously been going on for centuries, really.
Yeah.
Well, mostly the last century.
It kind of has. It kind of has in terms of even moving from sword fighting to guns. I mean,
yeah.
The combat distance is going up, and big battleships are no longer used with the big cannons on the sides. They were used at the end of World War II, but they started getting battered up by cruisers and things with missiles and planes.
Yeah.
All that shit, it's just getting further and further away. Where it's just drone ships fighting, and everyone's, it's just a big game of Call of Duty, basically.
Yeah. And now in wars, when so back in the early 20th century, the First World War, they were like 10,000 people were dying a day or something ridiculous, maybe more.
Horrible.
But in some of just in single battles, like the Somme and stuff, like tens of thousands of people were just dying.
Yeah, just cannon fodder, just going over the trenches.
And now in wars now, the numbers are way, way lower, and we are shocked by way, way lower numbers. You'll hear death, like certain X number of soldiers has been killed in in some battle somewhere, and it's like a helicopter's been shot down or something like that.
Yeah.
And that's like a big deal. And we see the news of the soldiers being returned and all this stuff, the bodies and all this stuff. Like it's a big deal. So like our sort of not tolerance, but our like expectation from war.
Perspective has just changed.
Yeah. So and again, this is like another step further removed. So casualties of war are going to be probably lower as a result of this.
Well, they may be lower, but it depends. I mean, they'll certainly be lower on the technologically advanced side.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're fighting a bunch of people, like sort of, ISIS type.
Yeah.
I mean, they're going to be worse off.
They're going to be worse off for sure, but then they're still not going to be taking the casualties like people in the First World War were taking.
Oh, no. But that's just because there's not enough people fighting for that.
Yeah. And the warfare is very different style.
If you had... Say you had the same warfare, World War One.
Yeah.
Okay, except one side suddenly got like autonomous, fighter jets. It's just like carpet bombing the shit out of the trenches. Then you have ridiculous casualties. I don't know what my point is there, but you're essentially. It depends on the context of the warfare. Generally, wars are kind of more small, localized things now that happen in kind of flashpoint regions, as opposed to
big.
You can't have giant like superpower wars anymore because everyone will just nuke the crap out of each other, and it will be the end of everyone.
But say you have
hopefully.
But say you do have two sides that have access to this kind of technology.
Yeah, then that is just a. But then if one of them wins, then eventually
it's just a game of chess. It's just a very, very expensive game of chess. If you have two just robots fighting robots, autonomous planes fighting autonomous planes. Well, I doubt a situation like that would actually really arise.
Probably not.
But
it might do. But you would hope not. But
it's like we might as well just not do that. We might as well just sit down and
have a game of cards.
Play cards. Play I don't know, some
the best
really
poker
basic
players. But eventually, if you're having a war, like an all-out war between two countries, say.
Yeah.
They're battling out robot style. It's like fucking robot wars. Okay, it's crazy. Sergeant Bash going mental.
Yeah.
Like they just and then they win. The house robots win. Okay, and they come through, and the civilian or the population, the actual people controlling it, are then just going to be rinsed by all the. So the robot fighting will happen in the middle, but then as soon as it actually comes to that barrier's been broken down and the invading force, I mean, maybe you just surrender at that point.
Yeah, you'd have to, wouldn't you? Because you're not going to be able to fight robots.
No.
Like armies of Terminators and stuff. That's what I'm imagining. But I guess. So
you could have a lot of casualties, for example, in that sense, if the other side didn't back down and you were just bombing military bases and stuff with like Terminator type things.
Yeah. The actual effect of this kind of technology would probably end up being a bit like any sort of really advanced weaponry. Would be more of a deterrent than anything. Just the knowledge your enemy has access to this kind of technology would probably put you off doing X, Y, and Z.
There's certain things that are definitely deterrents.
Deterrence in the sense that it would change your tactics. Like you're not just going to rush in and start shooting if you know that your enemy it would just mow you down with an autonomous.
Yeah, I mean,
fighter jet.
most of the things that are developed between the US and China and these sorts of the very high level technology are way more advanced than is necessary to combat.
Yeah, exactly.
Things in they're not. People still die in the US and UK and whatever the Western militaries that are fighting various other places around the world. So you want to minimise that, and therefore the technology isn't perfect because you're still getting deaths. But if you have two superpowers like standing off between like China and the US, I mean, they're kind of just building these ridiculous. They're kind of it's an arms race. It's always an arms race.
Yeah,
you're always getting that tension between the two.
Yeah,
to try and build, the most advanced thing that can. The best air superiority fighter or whatever, just in case it comes to, a war, and in case, say, China decides to fight the US has the knowledge at the moment they have the best air superiority fighter, the Raptor in the world.
Yeah.
And they have, like, exclusivity on that. So that's kind of like a safety net, like a deterrent, I suppose, like you were saying.
Yeah.
That they would be confident that they could win an air battle at any point. So it's just kind of this... They're probably never going to come to it. You'd hope they would never come to it, like superpowers fighting, but they always feel like they need to have that military thing in case.
Yeah, and they kind of do just because of the world we currently live in.
Yeah.
If you don't have, well, I mean, maybe it wouldn't just all collapse into one country taking over the world, but you can't just let one country just build a shitload of really great military technology and everyone else just be like, it'll probably be fine, just leave it. So you kind of have to respond by also building your own stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Unless you can unanimously agree unilaterally that everyone stops building any military stuff.
Yeah, and everyone's cool with that.
And everyone's cool with it. I mean, even then, people still be doing it in secret. But places like, imagine there's so many places in the world that are just there's never ever would do that.
No.
So you can't therefore.
You can't rely on everybody to just sort of sit.
You can't rely on it to be perfect. So therefore, you probably always have to do it.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. Probably.
Yeah. So other stuff from this technology. This is just another example, as I was saying earlier, of just AI eroding, as you were saying, like eroding more of the human activity, just being better than humans at doing certain things. And it's probably going to have, just developing something like this for military applications, it's probably going to have like trickle down implications for a whole bunch of other sort of
commercial
autonomous
pilots.
Vehicles, autonomous pilots for commercial planes, just like fast information graphics processing, stuff that will be really useful for
situational awareness kind of type processing that makes very quick decisions about the
very complex environments very, very rapidly.
Decision making based on threats, all this sort of stuff. You probably fold that sort of kind of technology into autonomous vehicles that are worrying about crashes and all this sort of stuff, and
just ultimately make things safer.
Yeah.
Because you tend to find that things that are adapted for military technology end up being rolled out for civilian use.
Yeah.
And in a hugely beneficial way.
Yeah, often. I mean,
like nukes.
Well, yeah, nuclear power, fission.
Fucking good point.
I mean, nukes, the bombs.
The bombs aren't particularly great for human use.
No. But we've adapted like nuclear reactors for all sorts of power things, to power Mars rovers, to power cities, etc., etc.
Yeah.
War is a very
rockets.
good forcer of technological development. I mean, the fastest technological developments that have happened in human history, or not the fastest, but at least the growth spurt points are like the World Wars. World War II was a huge change in technology over that.
Aircraft, rocketry. All that stuff came from... Well, aircraft existed before World War II, but after World War II they were honed, like the designs were honed. Shipping
Space
and
rockets
stuff.
Basically came from World War II.
Rockets did, in a big way, yeah.
Just loads, ridiculous amounts of stuff.
Yeah.
That kind of technology could definitely be useful.
Yeah. Plus, there is something seriously cool about an AI fighter jet.
Yeah, there is. And maybe...
A bit Skynet.
It is a bit Skynet. It's a bit. This is the sort of thing, the sovereign AI that wants to take over. Before you get to that point, you're probably gonna have a lot of jets that are AI controlled and very hackable.
And they would be probably
they're not hackable, but
they'd be networked because it would be useful for them to be networked.
Yeah. That's the other thing is hacking these types of things is a danger once they're totally autonomous. But all these like next generation fighter things are all going to be they're all going to, a part of their like, you know, countermeasure suite will all be like crazy kind of hacking countermeasures. Electronic
absolutely.
warfare basically is going to be part of the payloads in them, as opposed to just old-fashioned, you know, rockets and missiles and stuff.
Because that's going to be such a crucial part, such a crucial like failure point for the whole thing.
Exactly.
So yeah, absolutely.
But maybe you're right. You could envisage a future where you just have robot battles, and whoever loses the robot battle just has to surrender, and you don't really get human deaths very often.
So you just have like, okay, we're all going to send our robots to some really distant, uninhabited place, the middle of the Antarctic ice sheet.
I don't think it's going to happen like that. Yeah.
Just let them fight over there.
Yeah.
And then whoever wins that, then that's the end of it.
That's it.
We'll just surrender. So I guess that the fact that we don't already do that now means that it probably wouldn't happen in the future.
Probably not. I mean, if China attacked the US, then they wouldn't say they declared war. They'd just start like flying in stuff to attack military bases and whatnot.
Yeah, so like the manufacturing plants for the robots or whatever.
Yeah. So there wouldn't be, you wouldn't be like, right, let's organise a little showdown.
Yeah, like a boxing match or something like that.
Yeah, because you could do that now.
Yeah, if that was a viable way of having wars, it would already happen now.
Yeah.
It's not like a technological barrier to that happening.
Yeah. You just take basically in that war, you just take every advantage you can. Yeah. And the advantage of attacking facilities and getting in there early and whatever, and not planning things, not letting your enemy know what's going to happen, is that's how wars work. So.
Yeah. Well, that is actually a different question: is will there ever be an end of wars forever? Like, will we ever stop fighting wars?
Well, I don't know.
It's a question. It's an interesting question.
We could do like a topic on like the future of warfare.
Yeah, that could probably be deserved. Is that a word?
We could do a whole show on that, maybe.
Yeah, a whole episode.
Oh, there's loads of crazy crap they're developing. Yeah, we could definitely do that. Anyway,
let's do that.
Maybe we'll do that next week.
The actual AI behind that plane, the system that was doing the flying.
Yes.
Was one of these
in the simulator
fuzzy tree. Yeah, sorry, in the simulator, one of these fuzzy tree decision algorithm things.
Right.
That just like prioritizes decisions, so it doesn't have to like compute everything at once.
Oh yeah.
And because of that, they use like some really small processor compute. The amount of computing power they have is equivalent to one of those Raspberry Pi, like credit card sized.
Oh, little like school to teach kids how to code type computers.
Yeah.
Was there fuzzy trees type stuff in the AlphaGo? Something like that was.
Yeah, I think it uses that kind of approach anyway.
Because that was all about, instead of computing doing mass number crunching, it was computing the priorities.
Yeah, exactly.
Identifying.
Yes, exactly that kind of approach. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, because like what this one is a genetic fuzzy tree, and that is actually a specific type of AI. And I'm not sure if AlphaGo is that or not. It may well be, but it might not be.
I think it had...
People who know about machine learning are probably like...
These guys are idiots.
You guys are idiots.
Yeah, well, we don't know anything about it, really. But I think, from what I remember, AlphaGo was like a mixture of certain things like that and other various, types of different techniques, AI techniques.
Yeah, sure. But this thing will continue to learn as well. So it will continue to sort of acquire like a library of situations and things to enable it to narrow that priority tree.
Yes.
For future sort of scenarios.
Right. So it does machine learning.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Cool. Other stuff. I think there was some information about Skylon getting a bit of money, a bit of cash.
Yes. So reaction engines, the people who are designing, building, whatever, the Sailor engines to go on the Skylon space plane, and also potentially their intercontinental hypersonic
the Scimitar engines.
Scimitar, that's it.
With the Skylon space plane and the A1.
Yeah, that's right. So they've been given like 20 million euros from the European Space Agency.
Was it 20 or 10? 20, I can't remember.
I think it was 20. To develop the Sabre. So obviously it's from ESA, so it's specifically for the space plane applications. Yes. Single stage to orbit vehicle, developing the engines. Still on target for a full test in 2019, as far as I know.
Yeah, they're still obviously happy with the idea of a spaceplane versus rocket, being a favourable technology type.
For certain types of payload and for access to low Earth orbit, I guess it makes a lot of sense.
Well, some people don't think so, do they?
No.
But obviously, they at the moment think it's worth developing.
Yeah.
Even if
and 20 million actually isn't all that much.
No, it's not.
It's enough to keep the development going, but it's not enough to let's build a space plane next week, kind of.
Yeah, no, it's nowhere near enough to build a whole thing. But yeah, anyway, good news for just general aerospace because it's cool and new, fresh kind of look at how to get into space.
Definitely, and there's more applications to that engine beyond just the single-stage orbit stuff as well. So it's a cool thing to be developed.
Yeah.
So another cool thing that has been on the news was the discovery by the Curiosity rover on Mars.
Oh yeah.
Of this mineral called these manganese oxide minerals, right? Sounds kind of like, oh yeah, some more minerals on Mars, yay! But actually, it's really cool because what it means is that these things only form in the presence of a highly oxidizing sort of environment, and that's usually on the Earth anyway, usually associated with lots of oxygen in the atmosphere.
Yes.
So basically, it seems to be a marker for, at least in this part of Mars's history, which is really ancient. Yeah. And at the time where we know there was loads of liquid water and much more habitable conditions, we were talking about in the Mars episode.
Sure.
One of the Mars episodes, at least.
Did too. Anyway, there was an ancient Mars episode.
At this time, it also now seems like there was potentially quite a lot of oxygen in the atmosphere.
And this is so we're talking. I don't know a huge amount about this. So they're talking free oxygen as in molecular oxygen, or are they talking oxidizing species like peroxides or whatever?
Yeah, it's hard to know exactly. And the reason they settle on molecular oxygen mainly because they can't really find evidence for other types of things that could oxidize manganese in this deposit.
And they don't find any other other chemical species and things that are sort of like, oh, that looks like it's got some chlorates
or whatever. Yeah. Which do exist on Mars and could also produce this kind of effect, but they haven't found them in this particular deposit. Yeah. And the fact that on Earth these things are formed primarily through reaction with molecular oxygen. So molecular oxygen is like O2, the same oxygen that's in the atmosphere that you're breathing.
What we are breathing. Yeah.
So if you take that, so that's that they basically by process of elimination they say that the most likely source of oxidation for this mineral is molecular oxygen in the atmosphere at that time, which is I could sort of get on board with that just about. Well, but it basically means that there could have been an atmosphere that was essentially breathable, maybe not to us, but
there was
to
molecular oxygen to aerobic organisms.
Yeah, you could have aerobic metabolism, which just seems completely mad because oxygen is intimately associated with photosynthesis and it's produced biologically. Yeah,
and consumed, keeps most of the high-level multicellular biosphere going.
Yeah, exactly. So we wouldn't exist without oxygen in the atmosphere.
Yeah, exactly. So they're not suggesting. So this molecular oxygen, so most of the molecular oxygen formed on Earth is from plants.
Yeah.
They're not suggesting that they don't think it's plants.
No, they don't think it's plants. They think that you can. So when Mars lost its magnetic field, a shitload more radiation was then allowed in, and the radiation basically splits up water molecules into hydrogen and oxygen. Yeah. Hydrogen escapes space because it's super light. Yeah. And oxygen doesn't, way less quickly.
Yes, or it reacts with stuff anyway.
Yeah, so it tends to react back with the stuff that's there. So that's actually part of the reason why the surface of Mars is red, is because it's been oxidized by oxidative reactions and shit from radiation. But they reckon that because way back in this time of Mars history, there's a lot more water, that you can have a lot more hydrolysis, a lot more oxygen produced through this mechanism, and then form these minerals. So you could probably account for it without biology. But there's this cool on Earth, these manganese oxides don't exist before the rise of photosynthesis, and they track the kind of rise of oxygen in the atmosphere almost perfectly. Like if you look back in the rock record, you start seeing them at the time when oxygen started being produced in the atmosphere, around the time that photosynthesis started. It's just this. I mean, we don't know what happened on Mars, but this is kind of like neat little. It seems like there might have been a neat little rise in oxygen around the time that we know Mars was habitable. So it's like, what's going on there?
Yeah, sure. I mean, on Earth, we didn't lose the magnetic field, so we don't have that pathway of getting oxygen.
But even if it wasn't produced by biology,
I was about to say, even then, you've got a habitable environment on Mars at that time. Okay, you've got drinkable water for modern organisms on Earth. We could have gone back and drunk some of the stuff that Curiosity's been sampling. So there's probably drinkable, good, neutral, pretty tasty water. Yeah, sort of rolling around on the surface of Mars, and the temperature's pretty good, seemingly, and you've got molecular oxygen floating around. Yeah. Which is a pretty potent energy source very potent energy source, for biology. Yeah, so you've got an environment that is, that's as close as you're going to get to a habitable environment. Really, I mean, what else do you don't really need a huge. Yeah, what else do you want? Yeah, so it all comes down to the origin of life and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, as we've talked about before. It's just another interesting sort of piece of. Yeah, another little surprise from ancient Mars. This wouldn't have been predicted, because actually what you get when you weather the type of rock you find on Mars with water, you get water which is the opposite. So you get water that forms the opposite type of minerals, which are called reduced minerals. So oxidized. To find something that's that highly oxidized in that type of environment is really surprising, and suggests that there was a shitload of oxygen. Yeah, they're hard to oxidize, aren't they, man? Yeah, they're really hard, really slow, really hard to oxidize. And actually, even without a catalyst, and the catalysts on Earth are usually bacteria. Yeah, or organics. It's still very slow, so it would have suggested a shitload of oxygen, or a catalyst like bacteria. Yeah. So these minerals themselves could be potentially literally biosignatures. Could be the result of metabolism. We won't know that until we can actually basically sample them and return them and look at them in labs and stuff. But very interesting, very intriguing. Yeah. Another just big stamp of approval of landing in Gale Crater. What a great place to have landed. Yeah, amazing. Just keeps giving. So much stuff there. Yeah. Got to send another. I mean, they probably won't send another mission there right now. The 2020 rover is probably not going there. In fact, when I was at a conference, there was some of the 2020 team were there, and they were talking about how there was a debate. Basically, they wanted the astrobiology people to have on what they thought of what landing sites, what sorts of things they should be looking for. And some people were saying, we should go back to Gale Crater, and other people were saying we can't really, that's something that's difficult to sell to the public and this sort of stuff, we're going to that same place. But I think there's huge value in going back there. Yeah, you've ground truthed a really good area that's got amazing, geology, huge diversity, huge potential for habitable environments, ancient habitable environments. And it tracks this really interesting part of the history as well. Mount Sharp, which is the mountain in the middle, it's all these layers that basically go forward in time through this sort of transition from habitable to potentially uninhabitable. So it's just all laid out for you there. So yeah, I mean, I'd be massively in favour of them sending something back there. Yeah, especially a sample return or something. Exactly, something with a drill or something like that, or a human mission. Yeah. So that's everything that happened while we were away. Yeah, all the important stuff. No, there's just some of the crap that we saw. Was kind of interesting. Yeah. Basically, these shows, as ever, are just stuff we sort of find interesting. That's really the only rule. I think that there are certain other things that we aren't talking about at the moment that I think we might do in other shows or whatnot. Sure. Yeah. Or a part of larger topics. But those were some of the nuggets. Yeah, just interesting things since we last did a show. If anyone has any more, feel free to send them. We always like to see them. Because we will discuss them. And... sorry, I thought I was going to sneeze just then. I've got hay fever at the moment. It's kind of bad today. Just allergies. But I think that's mostly it for the main kind of... It's not really a main topic. The main chunk of the show. The random crap we're talking. Right, let's do Nutters of the Week. Yeah. So... missed this shit. So, there was some sort of NASA stream, as ever, on the ISS this week. NASA's space station feed cuts off after UFO. Sparking conspiracy theories. Okay. So you heard about this, yeah? Yeah, well, maybe not so this direct one, but... there's just a grainy video, which, by the way, the streams that come from these things are all automated on this particular thing, so they shut off and on and off automatically based on whatever. Yeah. and there's like a small bit of like what looks like debris, very faint, kind of blurry, just a little bit of debris.
Yeah,
turning.
like something.
I mean, it could be just a piece of debris.
Sure.
And the stream happens to shut down as it seems like it's slowing down, or it's probably just moving away, and it seems to be getting slower and slower as it's moving away because it's getting further and further away. But so a lot of people are jumping on that saying it's a UFO. So we had some tweets like,
well, obviously it's a UFO.
Yeah, we don't. Well,
by definition. If we don't know what it is, it's a UFO.
But then, it's probably a UFO to them.
Yeah.
NASA's probably like, oh yeah, that's just a bit of the bay that we removed. Or something,
yeah, or like a satellite that we know about, or whatever.
Or it probably it might. You would imagine unless they had dropped something and knew about it, it might not be something they do know about. If they wouldn't just have like.
Could it just be an artifact on the count on the
I think it
video?
is actually a piece of debris.
Right.
Look, guys, people can't see it at home. If you want to Google it. Just Google that title. NASA space station feed cuts after UFO sparking conspiracy theories. You can see it just turning.
Yeah, okay. Just a bit of a blob.
It's a blob. So we had obviously...
It's clearly aliens.
People tweets saying, as mysterious UFO enters atmosphere, NASA cuts live feed. For those of us who don't have blinders on, alien races are here in abundance. And another UFO, another feed cut. Another reason to question why NASA always has problems with the neighbours.
NASA pulling the wool over our eyes yet again, blinding us from the truth.
I know.
Clearly, I mean, based on this, you see something in a video, and as soon as it starts to get interesting, the video cuts off. Clearly, based on that, aliens are everywhere and in abundance, right? Alien races are in abundance among us. That's the only logical conclusion you can draw from that.
Yeah.
Nothing else works. Like, that's it. That's the thing that it requires the least assumptions. Yeah.
It's strange, isn't it? That I mean, NASA, I suppose, has been involved with, black projects over the years, and they do a lot of secret military stuff, I suppose.
Especially they did, in the past, Cold War time.
I think they still do some. But it's this obsession with NASA as like a body that's it's just steeped in conspiracy and these deep-seated conspiracies to hide these alien races from the rest of the world that are,
and people are like typical NASA, like
NASA,
just doing it yet again, yet more confirmation that NASA are hiding from us, the real truths of the universe and all this stuff.
Although
you see it with all the Mars stuff as well, like if there's someone's seen like a fucking statue of Jesus on Mars in a picture or something, or like a pharaoh or like a cat or whatever.
Yeah, old woman.
Yeah, and they're saying, and NASA say, well, not that they ever respond to it, obviously, but NASA will say, oh yeah, we're just doing our science mission because that's what we're here to do, and the people will say, NASA like deliberately not investigating these things which are clearly really fascinating and interesting artifacts. And it's like, no. You just think they are. Yeah, when there's pictures.
It's
like not a cat. It's a rock.
When there's like a blurry as shit photo on the surface of Mars, like a sort of square feature. And they're like, here's a pyramid. Here's the walls guarding them. It's like, it's not a pyramid, mate.
Yeah.
If you just look at the high-rise photos, it's definitely not a pyramid.
Yeah, and it's the thing about saying that because NASA aren't investigating that, they're clearly hiding stuff from us. Yeah. So no, they're not investigating it because they have much better things to be investigating.
You do realise
like a pixel error on like an orbital picture.
We're
part of the problem, though.
We're part of the problem. No.
Yeah, we're also hiding. We're protecting.
We're
NASA.
part of the problem, but because at the start of this, we were talking about. I went to Idaho and did stuff a little bit of. I'm part of that conspiracy now.
Yeah.
And you are as well, because I know you've done stuff a bit. And so. We are fucked. We can't talk about this now.
No, we're part of the conspiracy. We're part of the cover up.
Yeah.
So no one's going to take us seriously.
Well, I mean, no. I mean,
all the serious alien hunters out there will take one look at us and know we're just bullshitting them completely about everything.
Yeah. Damn it. I feel like I've lost something.
Yeah. Those
as if they listen to anyone who's arguing against them in whatever capacity anyway.
Yeah, just sidestepping any real like rationality.
Yeah. But, anyway, still fun though. Still absolute bollocks and some.
I love those.
Good fun. They have they're quite regular. These types of sightings. You know, a bit of stuff moving or whatever in the corner of an ISS feed.
Yeah, and then it cuts off.
Yeah.
So the fact that it cuts off is like, oh yeah, obviously that means it's really aliens.
It's probably not.
Yeah.
It's probably not. I mean, if you want to think about aliens and all the stuff, you know, think of Fermi paradox stuff. You know, there's it's too hard to hide that sort of thing. They'd have to have such a massive conspiracy within NASA. From so many different, and you know how many moving parts there are in these types of things. You can't keep it secret if there's someone's going to release a new game. Like, it gets leaked all the time, or a new movie.
Yeah.
You know, people hack into people's phones and get shots of them naked. Like, those things are tiny compared to an alien conspiracy, but still no one's saying anything.
Yeah, but although apparently they're going to release a bunch, like the American president, so either Obama or, well, we talked about this in the previous Nutters of the Week.
Yeah.
Obama and Hillary Clinton has said that if she gets into office, she's going to get to the bottom of all that Roswell nonsense or whatever it was.
Really?
Send a special forces team into Area 51. Do you remember all that? We talked about it on the Nutters of the Week a few weeks ago.
It's a while ago now.
Yeah. So
what does that mean?
I have no idea. It just makes her sound batshit crazy, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, she might find something that's not. It's not going to be that interesting.
Well,
she would, if she's president,
it will be
they get to know about it. Right?
Getting to the bottom of all that alien nonsense, whatever it was, will be. There is no alien nonsense.
Yeah, there's a.
There we go. We've hit the fucking hard bottom of it.
She might come out with something like, we'll investigate exactly what it was at Roswell and stuff, and then just come out like it was these weather balloons that we were releasing or whatever.
Oh, we were doing some kind of it's like a
it
secret research program into X, Y, and Z, and that's what it was. Sorted.
Yeah. But let's just suspend our disbelief.
I mean, I guess it is plausible
that aliens
that
could
we
have
been visited by aliens.
Yes.
Yeah, it's plausible.
But the evidence is not there.
The evidence is not there, and the
ridiculous
vast majority of
conspiracy
people
theory
who love to go on about it are a bit mad.
It is plausible, but it's unlikely. So you think about the size of the universe, etc., and all the stuff we talked about the Fermi paradox. It's very unlikely that we've been visited, but you know, not impossible. And I guess
what's less plausible is a cover up.
Exactly. It's just too complex. There's too much. If they had visited, and you know, the huge government, like we were saying, the huge government agencies are all involved in it, and still the only smallest, tiniest bit of evidence in this internet age we've got is a fucking shaky ass piece of crap camera shot on the ISS of what clearly looks like a piece of debris.
Yeah, like a few pixels moving, and
you know, kind of like weird reports of some guy who got taken up, he says, by a UFO and came back down, and he got home and he had a beard and he didn't have a beard before. Like, these are like weird things. Just like that's the best evidence. It's not good evidence. There's no good evidence. So you have to prove that there's something, to make, you know, to not just assume that there is nothing. To take the simplest explanation, you need to have some kind of evidence to point you in that direction, and there's just no good evidence. It's all bad sort of hearsay kind of nonsensy stuff. No actual good proof of anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's no you can't absolutely rule it out.
No,
but there's just no good reason to believe that it has happened. At this point.
Yeah, there's just literally no. There's no.
Considering that it would be essentially the biggest discovery of all time, pretty much, in human history, and the impact of it would, you know, in the way that we see ourselves and the way that we understand evolution of planets and evolution of life and civilizations and stuff. The amount that that discovery like that would impact on our sort of understanding of the universe. A cover up just seems pointless. Yeah, people like to have their conspiracies.
Yes, yeah. I mean, even if people confirm that there were aliens, there'd be conspiracies about the aliens.
Yeah.
You know, it's a never-ending. It's like a necessity,
people like to think that they're in on. They've worked out like what's really going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. The truth of the matter.
The truthers. Right. That'll do for this week.
Yep.
I need to go to bed.
Finish your beer first.
I will.
And then crash.
Thank you again for listening. Thank you for waiting around for us to return. Staying subscribed,
those of you that are still here.
And we will see you next week for...
probably a full topic.
Yes. What did we say? Oh, might do Future Warfare.
Yeah, Future of Warfare, maybe. Something like that. If not next week, that's coming up.
Yeah, we'll probably do that.
Yeah.
That's some pretty weird, cool, sort of scary stuff.
Scary, yeah. And just interesting. You know, is it something that will be around forever? Those kind of questions as well, potentially. We'll get into. So.
Exactly. Yeah, sounds awesome.
Cool.
All right.
See you next time.
See you later.